What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Bit of Footy YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be running through my Week 1 AFL Finals tips for the 2024 AFL Finals Series. Can you believe it? Finals are finally here. Yeah, should be a ripping final series. If your team is in the final series, good luck to them. Obviously, my team isn't, but it still should be a good watch, and I can't wait to see how it goes because it is really up in the air who's going to make it to the granny this season. So yeah, should be a ripping final series to watch. Now, before we have a look and see what my tips are for week number 1 of the 2024 AFL Final Series, let's take a look and see how I did back in round number 24. Now, in round number 24, as you can see on the screen right now, I got a total of 7 out of 9 tips correct, which for myself is actually pretty decent. And the only 2 tips that I did get incorrect were the Giants tip and the Freo tip. Every other tip I did, in fact, get correct. And that currently has me in equal 23rd spot in my own tipping competition. And I'm currently on a total points tally of 124 points in total. So it's not too bad for myself. In first spot, we again, just kidding, actually, we've got a new leader, and it is Geordie Pluto, who got a total of 8 out of 9 tips last round and is on a total points tally of 137 points in total. Now, so is Yusuf. Yusuf is also on 137 points in total, but Geordie has tipped closer margins than Yusuf has, so that has Geordie sitting at the top of my tipping competition. So fair play to Geordie, who takes the lead heading into this year's final series, and my tipping comp will be continuing throughout the entire final series as well. So if you're at the top, good luck to yourself. But yeah, fair play to Geordie for hitting the lead at this stage of the season. But yeah, without further ado, let's take a look and see what my tips are for week number 1 of the 2024 AFL Finals Series. Let's get into it. Alright, kicking off the first week of the 2024 AFL Final Series, the first final to get us just wrapped into the final series of this year. We've got Port Adelaide taking on Geelong at the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide are coming off a 20-point win against the Fremantle Dockers. The Cats, they're coming off quite a big win over the West Coast Eagles. So both teams are coming into this game off the back of wins. The last time that these two teams played against each other was earlier in the season. It was a Friday night down at the Cattery, and the Power got the job done by a margin of 6 points. They're actually up by a little bit more than 6 points, but obviously we know that the Cats, they came storming home, but it was a little bit too late for the Catters, and the Power got the job done in the end by a margin of 6 points. And now we've got this game at the Adelaide Oval, not at the Cattery, so you never know what it could be like. But you know, the Cats, they do actually like playing at the Adelaide Oval, so that could have the Cats, you know, coming into this game with a bit of confidence. And I'm sure that that massive win over the Eagles will, you know, have them coming into this game with confidence anyway. But the Power, they're in a good mood at the moment. They're coming into this game with some good form. They've been some decent teams. They've been challenged a few times and been able to, you know, overcome those challenges in certain games. So yeah, but it should be a ripping contest, this one. Like I said before, the Cats, they do tend to, you know, like to play in Adelaide. They've gotten a few good results in Adelaide before, but I think the Power, with the form that they're in, with the way that they're playing, they're going to be a tough team to beat during this final series. And if they can win this qualifying final, I reckon they'll be tough to beat in a prelim in front of their home fans at the Adelaide Oval, and who knows, that could guide them to the granny. So for this qualifying final, I'm going to be choosing Port Adelaide by a margin of 22 points over the Cats in this one, but should be a ripper nonetheless. Then for the second final of the first week of the final series, we move on to an elimination final between the Dogs and the Hawks at the MCG. But it is the Dogs' home game, but you know, the Hawks at the MCG, it's a whole new story. The Dogs, they're coming off a 37-point win over the Giants. The Hawks, they're coming off quite a big win, a 124-point win over the Roos. So they're coming into this game with massive confidence, the Hawks. And I just feel like the Hawks, they could really, you know, maybe challenge the Dogs a lot in this game, considering the way that they're playing. But, you know, the Dogs, they've had a few final series under their belts, and a lot more of their players have had a few final series than the Hawks have had, obviously. But the last time that these two teams played each other, the Hawks, they got the job done by a margin of 7 points over the Dogs. And I remember watching that game, and the Dogs kicked the first 3 goals of the game. But then it was, you know, sort of an ebbing and flowing sort of affair, that one. And the Hawks got the job done by a margin of 7 points. In the end, they stuck Sicily up forward, and he, you know, came through for them as well. And he's been a very good captain for the Hawks this season, getting them to this final series as well. So yeah, should be a good contest. This one normally is between the Dogs and the Hawks. I know it's at the MCG. You know, the Hawks, they tend to play some very good footy at the MCG. They have done very well at the G this season. They've got a lot of players which I think can do well in a final. I feel like the Dogs, they've got a lot of experience in the finals, and I feel like they'll just know what to do to get the job done in this one and move on to the semis. So I'm tipping the Dogs in this one, but I think the Dogs will win by a slim margin, because I feel like the Hawks will be right up for it, right up for the challenge in this game. But I think the Dogs will edge it in the end and get the job done by a margin of 8 points over the Hawks. Then we move on to the final two finals of this first week. We've got the Swans taking on the Giants for the second, or the other, qualifying final of this week. Yeah, the Battle of the Bridge, the Sydney Derby, whatever you want to call it. The Swans are coming into this game off the back of a win against the Crows. The Giants are coming into this game off the back of that loss to the Dogs. So, you know, the Swans, they've clicked a little bit heading into this final series. Obviously, they had that sort of a patch where they weren't playing their best footy, and I don't think they still are playing their best footy at the moment. But, you know, that could all change coming into this game. So, yeah, it could make for an interesting result, but you never know. You never know. The last time that these two teams played each other, the Swans got the job done by a margin of 27 points, and that was at the Giants' home ground. And now we've got the game at the SCG, this one. But I don't know what it is, but I feel like this is the Giants' game to win. It just really says in my head that this is a Giants' game to win. It's their crosstown rivals. It's in a final. It's at the Swans' home ground. And this is where I feel like the Giants thrive the most. You know, they're not expected to win. I feel like a lot of people are expecting the Swans to win. It's at the SCG. It's a final. The Swans, they finished first on the ladder. But it would just be such a Giants thing if they got the job done, beating the Swans, who finished first, who were the minor premiers at their home ground as well. It would just be such a Giants thing to do if the Giants won this game, and I feel like that's what's going to happen. I feel like the Giants will get the job done, so I'm going to tip them to in this game against the Swans, their crosstown rivals, and I've got the Giants to win it by a margin of 13 points over the Swans. That may sound crazy, but I feel like it's going to happen. And then we move on to the last final of the round, the other elimination final. We've got the Lions taking on the Blues at the Gabba. The Lions, they're coming off a 20-point win over the Bombers. The Blues, they're coming off a 2-point loss to the hands of the Saints. The last time that these two teams played each other was actually all the way back at round number 0, opening round, where the Blues got the job done by 1 point. Harry Mackay kicking that goal to get the win for the Blues. What a game that was. I remember the Lions came out the blocks and got to a decent lead, and then the Blues pulled it back. And Harry Mackay, like I said before, kicked that goal to get the win for the Blues. Now, last time that these two teams played in a final was actually the opposite thing that happened. The Blues got out the blocks. They fired out the blocks, actually. They got out to a very decent lead. And then the Lions reeled it back in at their home ground and managed to win that game by a margin of 16 points. So there you go. We've had two games that sort of felt the same, but had two different results. You know, one team would start well, the other team would come back and win. So yeah, should make for a good final, this one. Ripping final. You know, hopefully the Blues can get some of their big games back and make it a very exciting finals game of footy. I've got the Lions winning this one. I feel like they're just sort of clicking at the moment. I know the Blues, they've had some, you know, big names out, but they still played well with those big names out, so that could come into tuition for the Blues. You know, they played some decent footy with their big names out. Jesus. But yeah, I feel like the Lions, they've clicked well. They've got into some decent form. They're playing at home at the Gabba, and I know the result last time that these two teams played at the Gabba went in favour of the Blues, but I feel like it's going to be a different result in this game, a finals game. I feel like the Lions will get the job done. I still feel like it'll be relatively close if, you know, the Blues get some of their big names back. So that's why I've went the Lions by only a margin of 5 points over the Blues in this one. But yeah, those are my tips done and dusted for week number 1 of the 2024 AFL Finals Series. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know who you guys have tipped for week number 1 of this year's Final Series in the comments below. And yeah, I will be heading to the Dogs versus Hawks elimination final with Chloe on the Friday night next Friday. So yeah, maybe I'll vlog that. I'll just have to see. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, cheers.